Hey, welcome to another Cat Country KATcast. Kevin Hilly, along with Aaron Hart and Jordan J. And we thought it might be kind of interesting to share with you how we got into this fun radio business. Maybe you are or know somebody who would like to get into this field.
We're hiring.
we are. At this point, we are looking for a new midday personality here on Cat Country.
Come work with us.
Are we allowed to say that on here? I guess we are. We just did.
Yeah.
Is there rules?
And again, if you can be as footloose and fancy-free as we are each day, okay? Chucking all the rules. So, but anyway, so here's how we got started in this business. I'll speak for myself, obviously. I went to college in upstate New York, and I grew up listening to Philadelphia radio. That's where I'm from originally, right outside Philadelphia in New Jersey, in the suburbs. And I grew up listening to all the great top 40 stations of the 60s and 70s in Philadelphia. And I will tell you, those guys on the radio were my hero. Those guys were who I wanted to be. Like everybody liked, sports stars or movie or TV stars. I liked radio. I wanted to be like those guys and because they were just having so much fun. So I had no idea how to do it. I just know that at some point in my life I wanted to do it. Well, I went to college, Houghton College in upstate New York, Western New York, and they had a campus radio station, which I discovered quite by accident. I just walked in one day and there was this radio station, and suddenly it was like an epiphany. Bah! And that was it. And my fate was sealed at that point. I was hanging out in that radio station more than times when I was supposed to be in class. I was at that radio station. That's where I was learning. I didn't even graduate because my grades plummeted. I ran out of money. It didn't matter. I was doing radio. And January of 1980, I took my first paid gig at a radio station in upstate New York. Once again, this was in the Thousand Islands, in a little town called Ogdensburg, New York. And I was working 7 till midnight on an AM station, 1400 AM. And it was a 1,000 watt daytimer, which meant that it was full power, 1,000 watts during the day. But at sunset, you had to lower the power to 250 watts.
Oof.
I know. So I was basically like broadcasting across the street.
Yeah, basically.
That was pretty much it. But I loved it. I was working 7 to midnight. Somebody was actually paying me to do radio. And I didn't even have a car at that point. I used to walk almost a mile to work in like literally sub-zero temperatures in upstate New York. It was cold, man. But that was my first gig, and that was 40 plus years ago. And I've loved every second of it. So that's how I ended up getting in the business.
All right, Jordan.
So, like Kevin, I kind of just stumbled into it, actually. So, I went to college not knowing at all what I wanted to do. I mean, I had an idea of kind of what my interests were. I was really kind of into law. So, honestly, for a while, I thought I was going to do some lawyer work. I thought, too, I was going to do some sort of, like, philosophy. I liked kind of stuff like that, too. So, I didn't exactly know what I wanted. I kind of just stumbled into it. I found that our campus, I went to Fayette. I went to Central Methodist University, so go Eagles. Eagle alumni out there. But, so I went there. I took I went to communication, I had a whole bunch of communication classes, and I found out that we have a radio station on campus. And I just so happened to kind of fall into that class, more so because I was like, I didn't know what to take. I thought this sounded like a fun, interesting class. It piqued my interest, so I took it. And then I really loved it. And come to find out, we had a part of the class where we had to work at the station. We had like an hour show every single day. Mm-hmm. Loved it so much. Ended up, like Kevin, always being at the station. It seemed like all the time, helping people out, the professor, whatever, to the point where like the station managers at the time were getting ready to graduate. So they were looking for other station managers.
Right.
And my buddy Nick and I, it just so happened, they were like, hey, you're around here a lot. Do you want to be the station manager?
And somebody who's going to be there the following year.
Yeah,
right?
we're going to be there the following.
Right.
So this happened like our sophomore year, and we're like, yeah, sure. So we became the station managers.
Nice.
And then I ended up actually sending my application to the Zimmer, and I got a part-time job for a long time here.
Right.
And so that's actually kind of how and then funny enough, I kind of modeled the radio station. We like completely redid it, like from the ground up. And I modeled it kind of after these stations in here today, funny enough. So.
And you began at one of our sister stations.
I did. So I actually started off when I started. I worked, for Y107 in Columbia. I was the night guy. I was like from 7 to midnight for like 3-4 years. I think I did that until I came to Cat Country.
There you go.
Wowza.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I had a menagerie of different jobs. One day at one of them, Mr. Kevin Hilly walks in. And I treated him like I did anybody else. Hey, how you doing? Fill this out. Have a seat over here. Enjoy your service.
You're working at a spa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was front desk at a spa and salon here in town. So he had his services, came out. Hey, how was everything? Great. Hope to see you guys. See you again sometime. Have a good day. Didn't think anything of it. Week later, my phone rang, and it was a number I didn't recognize. And normally, if I don't recognize a number, if it's not saved in my phone, I don't bother answering it. But for whatever reason, I did that day. He was like, hey, this is Kevin Hilly. And I'm thinking, that guy from last week? This is weird. And he's like, Francis, who was my boss at the time, gave me your number. And I just wanted to talk to you about maybe coming on air with me.
And you're like, why is she handing my number out to you?
To random dudes. But he goes, I just thought maybe you'd want to come on and just be on air with me. And I go, well, like, I didn't understand exactly what that meant. I'm like, do you need like copies made? Your coffee, filing done?
Well, no, I think about it. That's
answered?
not a bad idea.
I mean, that's kind of what I was doing anyway. And he's like, no, just come in and just chit chat. Okay. So I did that, maybe 2 or 3 times before I got a call from higher ups saying, hey, we want to talk to you about job opportunities. And I thought, ooh, maybe like commercials. I didn't know how all this worked.
Right,
I had a job.
The whole business.
Wasn't looking for a job.
Right.
And I actually met with them and walked out. And it's funny because I was actually moving. So they called and were like, hey, can you meet in 30 minutes? I'm like, sure. I was like in a ratty T-shirt, had been, working, packing and cleaning all morning, had to run upstairs, unpack my bathroom real quick, take a quick shower, find the most unwrinkled thing I had already packed.
Right.
And, met them in 30 minutes and then walked out like 30 minutes later with a job starting the morning show with Kevin like the next day. So I had to go tell my boss of 8 years, oh, hey, by the way, kind of needed to adjust my hours a little bit if that's
just
cool with you.
Yeah.
So I did both jobs for about a year until Zimmer hired me full time.
What's funny is the way, the opportunity opened for Aaron is that I had somebody else in here at Cat Country, when I first started in 2008. But she was a college student. She was my co-host at the time, but she had to miss a lot of time because, again, she was in class and this and that. So I needed somebody to fill in. Now, I had a couple of names that people would fill in from time to time. But when Erin came in, they liked her so much that they said to me, hey, who was that woman that you had on with you? I said, oh, her name is Erin. They said, do you have her phone number? Yeah, here's how to get in touch with her. And because my thought, honestly, when I first started talking to Erin at the spa, we were just chatting, like I said, after I was done. And I remember thinking, wow, this is somebody who can carry on a conversation. She's very personable. And that's the X factor in this business.
It definitely is.
The mechanical, technical stuff you could teach to just about anybody. That's not really necessary. But to be able to carry on a conversation, to think on your feet, to that whole thing, that's a huge advantage. And I saw that with Erin. So I said, this is somebody that I'd like to have on the air with me if we could.
So what Hilly actually was saying was, you know what this show needs? It needs some old lady stability. So I got to get somebody old.
Well, I'm glad she said it, not me.
So, yeah. So
no, it's actually really good.
Down.
Kevin, you bring up a good point. It's like that's what a lot of people don't realize, I think, too, in this industry, is that like talking is actually challenging. Like, I don't think people realize that. Everyone's all, all you do is talk for a living. And then you put someone in front of a microphone and then they're like, I don't know what to say.
You
and it's
wouldn't believe the amount of people who just freeze up when there's a mic in their face.
It's actually hard to do.
It's it's improv.
It is kind of,
I mean, because like somebody says something, you need to immediately have something else to add to that. You don't just sit there and go, yeah. You carry on the conversation. It's an art. It's a skill. And, none of us are perfect at it. But I'm saying, because we've had duds.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm just saying that is a huge part of this. And then, to extend it to, like for the radio, you have other people listening to you, and hopefully you're doing something that gives them a smile and makes their day, that whole thing.
Oh, and just know that if you mess up in any way, shape, or form, they can get a hold of you via text message, email, Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, TikTok Messenger.
If you say something wrong, people will fact check you, and you'll be like, "My mistake."
Absolutely. There is. I can tell you that, and this is the other thing people often say about, "Hey, do you make a lot of money?" Well, I will tell you. Here's the thing. This can be a very lucrative business if you're in the right place, in the right situation. National or really big markets sometimes. And again, 40 plus years in this business, I've been very fortunate, very blessed to be able to, raise a family, buy a house a couple of times, that kind of thing. But if that becomes your solo goal, you're going to be solely disappointed. I was working at a radio station in New Hampshire. This was like mid-90s. Had a very successful top 40 show. I mean, we basically owned the market. And another station came along and said, "Hey, we want to go to Albany, New York." I'm like, "Ooh, Albany, that's a big market. Okay, I like that. They're going to put me in the mornings." And I went and I took it and I kicked myself because I was miserable. I ended up working for a lunatic. This guy tried to change everything about me and the way I do the show and everything else. And I was like, why did I do that? Why? We had such a good thing going. And it honestly took me a good couple of years to really get my joy back in this business. I never really considered quitting, but it was just like, I don't know if I'm going to find. And then years later, I ended up with Aaron, and even better than that time before.
No, that's incredible. I love the story here and how it's like, I was like, that's how you do it. It was like fate. It was like you were destined to be on the radio. You're like, "I'm just working at this spa. Hi, how are you, Mr. Hilly?"
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. And then all of a sudden it's just like out of nowhere. You're like, "What? I have a radio job." That story is so cool, so inspiring. It's awesome.
Well, I remember telling my parents, and my dad, of course, being Mr. Positive, "Well, you're never going to make any money." Thanks, Dad. Thanks.
So far, that's true.
My mom.
You're right, Dale.
My mom, she was like, "What made you, just kind of take a leap of faith and do this?" And I go, "I don't know. It's something I've never done before. So why not?" I mean, if I started it and I hated it, I could always say, "I'm very sorry. This isn't going to be a good fit for me."
And then you'd watch Kevin cry.
Well, yeah. And then I'd probably chuckle a little bit. No, but I just kind of figured if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But if it did, and it did, I didn't dislike the job I had before, but just sitting at a desk for 12 hours and doing laundry and cleaning up rooms. And I kept thinking, boy, there's got to be something more to life than this. Whereas here we get to do a number of different things. We're always out in the community.
True.
You're always meeting new people. You're always,
every
sharing
day's different, which is great. That's what I love the most about it.
Everything is different. So you're not just, because I don't thrive at a desk. I kind of wither and die at a desk. I am not made to sit still for hours on end. That's not me. It never has been me. I've always liked to be a little more active.
Well, one thing with this job too, and it feeds, it's funny, like it's the same thing in a way that social media does. Everybody has a way to express their opinion now on social media. A comment about this. We get to talk about what is going on, stuff in the news. Maybe it's something funny, maybe it's something serious, but you know what I mean? And we get to share our opinion and what we're thinking about it with thousands of other people. And to hear from them as well. So so it's not just one-way communication. I mean, we do hear back from them, but it's in a way, it's a dream. It really is I consider it a dream job. Like I said, from the time I was 10 years old, I never wanted to do anything else in my life but this. Again, early on, I didn't know how to, but I know this is what I wanted to do. And sometimes people say, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're doing what you wanted to do since you were a kid." I know. I am. Yeah. I recognize that. I am lucky because not everybody can. And not everybody can hang on in this business, too. I've known plenty of guys who are I'm going to be honest, way better at what they do than I am. But they just didn't get that break, that they didn't meet that right person. They didn't land in the right place or whatever. And they've got a family and a house, mortgage, whatever to support, and they couldn't stay in this anymore. And I get that. So I've been very, very blessed in my life with this.
I mean, am I ever going to be Ryan Seacrest or Howard Stern or anything like that? No. But am I okay with that? Absolutely. I like that I'm 15 minutes away from my parents, 15 minutes away from my father-in-law. Large market. It's appealing. Don't get me wrong. Of course it is. But at the end of the day, I like where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, I like the people I work with. Not everybody can say that. Not everybody can say, oh, gosh, I really like the people I work with. Mm-hmm. Well, I can actually say that and be genuine about it.
And what's funny, too, on on this side of the industry, you're listening to us, but on the opposite end of that, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, but sometimes it's just when you're doing your show, you ever feel like sometimes it's just oh, this is just me and Aaron talking. This is just, I'm just doing it. You almost forget that other people are listening until then, you get all these people, oh, I listen to you every single day and yada, yada. Because it's funny. It's a lot of times I just feel like I'm talking to myself in a room, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, there's thousands of people hearing and whether they're agreeing or talking about something. It's just, it's cool when you get done thinking about it. Because a lot of times I just forget about that, where it's just sometimes I feel like it's just me talking to a microphone, hoping people just either agree or think what I'm saying is funny, and then not realizing everyone really loves this stuff all the time, every day. They hang out with you. You're basically people's family,
Exactly. And people have said that to us. We feel like you're our family.
Exactly.
We listen to you in the car on the way to school. I was I love that.
And I love that too.
That is honestly better than any award.
Yeah.
Or just to have people say that, to think that about you. Man, that's the ultimate.
If I entertain one person throughout my day, I've done my job, in my opinion. Just one person. If one person enjoyed whatever I had to offer that day, I've felt
mission accomplished.
Exactly.
So when I have somebody come up and quote me to me, that's kind of my all-time favorite thing. When I had somebody come up and they were talking about a trip that Hilly and I took to New York, and it was the biggest experience of our lives. And afterwards, we're celebrating, and Hilly orders the most old man meal possible. And I had a guy quote that. He was like, oh my gosh. He goes, when you were talking about how Hilly ordered a crab cake and a bowl of clam chowder, and that was the most old man meal that he could possibly
Trust me.
After the biggest night of your life.
After the biggest night of your life, he was like, he goes, we couldn't stop talking about that at work. He goes, because it's funny.
We still do.
Well, somebody thought so.
I'll be like, yes, do you have some prunes?
Can we get a side of prune juice for that? Cancel that beer he ordered. That was the only fun part of his meal.
Prunes. Can I get some raisins with your clam chowder?
We do still laugh about that, man. Oh my God. It's great. No, and again, we were talking about, big market and everything like that. And there was a time in my life, honestly, and I did a couple of times, go from a smaller market to a much bigger market. Mm-hmm. And for some guys, it works out great. That's fine. To me, it wasn't that great. And it wasn't like I didn't do well there. It's just that there aren't a lot of extra bonuses with that. And I really like, Jefferson City and Columbia and all, that's considered small market in this industry. Mm-hmm. You have markets ranked from number 1 to number 300 or whatever it is. And we're considered small market. And you know what? I'm perfectly fine with that. Oh, yeah. I'm okay with that, because to occasionally know the people when you go out and about and see them and they hear you, and again, to get that feedback.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. The one where, what was it? Somebody will say something to you. Oh my gosh. I was laughing. You guys were talking about blah, 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 whatever it is. Maybe it might have been a month ago.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember
Me either.
that.
Me either. I know.
But I'm like, oh, thanks. Well, I'm glad it made you smile. I don't remember what it was.
I've had the same reaction. They're like, oh, I love when you were talking about, and I was like, when was this? Like a month ago? I was like, part of me, I'm like, I've got to be honest with you. I can't remember what I talked about yesterday.
For me, it's the classic Hilly Burns, and that get quoted back to me, and people, they're like, oh gosh, it cracks me up because you two remind me of what me and my coworkers are like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if we've made that connection, we're doing something right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, again, how did you get into your line of work? What do you do? What do you share? Maybe the beginning.
Maybe you're doing something we want to do.
Maybe.
Let us know.
Did you plan on being in that line of work when you first started, or did you fall into it maybe? KATcountry@mailzimmer.com. Share your story. We'd love to hear it,
Absolutely.
And we'll look forward to talking to you on another KATcast.
And maybe one day we'll be your coworker.
And you might be on the KATcast.